Fishing for mangrove and yellowtail snapper in the Gulf of Mexico is something that's become a little more specialized in terms of it's a little more of an expert type of fishing. I think the biggest problem anglers face is they often don't even realize that they're there. And when they don't realize they're there, they're not targeting them. They're pretty much just going straight to the bottom, bypassing a lot of the mangrove and yellowtail snapper. And I want to kind of show you a few examples of what I mean when I say that they're bypassing them. The best way to catch mangroves and yellowtails is really to get them chummed up, get them up off the bottom away from everything else. So here's a spot over a wreck. I'll show you a little bit of the GoPro going down, and you'll see how far up we had the yellowtails chummed this day. So you saw the top of the boat, so the surface. These are yellowtails right here. We had them pretty much all the way up to the top. We were fishing for them with very light jigs and at times no lead at all because they were, just right below the boat. So you can see yellowtails, lots of yellowtails. They're very nice size, 2 to 3 pounds as well. And there's also some mangrove snapper. The mangroves were hanging out just a little bit below the yellowtails. And so anything that would get past the yellowtails, the mangroves would eat. So this is a pretty big wreck that's out in the Gulf. Getting these fish chummed up is one of the few ways you can actually catch them. Catching snapper on the bottom at wrecks is extremely difficult to do. And so when you're usually getting them, you're dropping light jigs, real lightweight, and these snapper, mangroves, and yellowtails are hitting it on the drop. So here is what it looks like on the depth finder. So you can see 102 feet. There's a GPS number if you can actually read it. So it's about 102 feet. You can see this line of fish just below the boat. Here's, the wreck down here. There's tons of bait and stuff up above it. So this line of fish, that's probably, it looks like there's 10. So it's about 20 feet down is most of the snapper. Usually if you see amberjack, they'll be, midway through the water column, maybe just off the top of the wreck. So now back to this. So that's about, 20, 30 feet. Some of these are swimming down with the GoPro. And so as this is getting, closer, there's a permit above this wreck as well. So you got sharks right there. You got snapper. Lots of fish all around this wreck. But we had, these fish all the way up to the surface, basically. So as I play this, you see we're chumming. You can chum with lots of different things. I'll go through that a bit later. We had some glass minnows. We had a chum bag going out here. I was throwing out some, old shrimp and stuff too. Just a variety of stuff. So he's got a snapper right there. Just yellowtails. You can almost even see them through the water all the way up to the surface. So nice yellowtail there. Sometimes if you get them hooked midway through the water column, you have a tough time getting them through the amberjack and the sharks because those yellowtails make that run down. The sharks see that, hey, here's a wounded fish, and they go straight for it. When you get them all the way up to the top, you got a much better shot of hooking them. So now we got a double header. He's hooked up as well. And it's just kind of one after the other. So what I'm using for bait for these is, it looks like I was putting on some shrimp. They would stay on the hook a little better. Then, dropped one overboard, turned into chum. Shrimp would stay on a little better. You can try, throwing glass minnows on there as well, but those glass minnows tend to fall off or they'll get eaten, but, you might not feel it and they just kind of get pecked off. So a lot of yellowtails up, and let's see if you can see. So there's another one he hooked up as well. So you can see you get some of these Almaco jacks. You get a lot of bait that comes out when you're chumming around this much. And we were starting to fill the box up with, nice big yellowtails. So let me go to another wreck right here, just to show you where some of these fish will be in the water column. So there's a surface. So dropping the GoPro down now. So as the GoPro is going down, this is a wreck that's out a little deeper, about 155 feet. I've been able to chum yellowtails up at this wreck, but it can be difficult. You need real slick, calm days. Sometimes overcast helps as well. Sunny days tend to make it a little more difficult getting fish all the way to the surface. So as the GoPro is going down, you start to see some barracudas. And then, so there's a yellowtail there. So this is probably about, halfway down. So you got a few yellowtails, if you can make them out. I can see them pretty clearly on my computer with the high-res vid. So there's a little school of yellowtails there. Now you're starting to get a lot more fish. There's some amberjack over there. Some almacos. I think there's permit at some point. So here's a nice school of yellowtails in the background, and then right below them is the mangrove snapper. They're all kind of hanging out together. So you can see lots of mangroves. There's mangroves over here as well. And they're up, midway through the water column. A lot of anglers, if you're fishing too heavy, you're blasting right by these fish before they even get a chance to hit. A school of fish like this will be a little more aggressive. They start to compete for food if they're in a chum line, and they will hit that stuff that's dropping and looking more natural. You drop 6-8 ounce leads straight through them, they're not even going to get a chance to hit. So you can see the wreck. It's kind of over right there. So these fish are 50-60 feet above that wreck, and that's why I tend to fish a lot of light jig heads. Even if it's 200 feet, I'll be using a half ounce, just slowly working through the water column, trying to get those fish that are up here, not necessarily right on the bottom. Just real quick, I'll go to the bottom. You can see some scamp groupers, part of the wreck. It's really kind of broken apart. But you look, when it gets down to the bottom, there's really not much there. All these fish are up in the water column. And I'll go a little shallower, one more showcase of kind of what we're looking for. So here is, if you can see it, it's a good readout of a Simrad machine. I'll bring up some other pictures as well, trying to explain this. But if you have a good machine, you can see when these fish come up. Like as your bait's dropping down, if you get a read of your bait, you'll see a line shoot up as the fish is coming. And I tend to stand beside the depth finder, and I'll watch, and I'll know when I'm about to get hit. So as I'm jig fishing, I'm slowly feeding line out. You can see me just slowly feeding line out there. I'm using about an 1/8 ounce and 50 feet of water. And so I could see that I'm about to get hit. I missed that fish there. But you just kind of get a feel for these things. And so here's, light jig. Just threading a shrimp on there, trying to have it look natural as it's falling through. So I think I did another drop, same thing. So you can see the fish right now are on the bottom. We weren't even really chumming this day, but you get these overcast, low light situations, and the fish will become a little more aggressive, and the water's clean enough they'll see your bait. So you can see here. So here is my line going down. Here is the fish coming up. Let's see if I can zoom in on that for you. So fish coming up, line going down. And then I'm getting hit, and I missed it. But if you're able to recognize these situations, so right here is the peak of where the fish hit my bait and then went back down. So these fish were, even though it's 50 feet, they were probably hitting it about 30 feet. And when you're getting snapper hitting like this, it's a lot of fun because they hit and they just start peeling towards the bottom. And the hooks tend to set themselves. You don't really need to do a lot of work, but obviously you just saw me miss the last two fish. But Tom's over here, and so he's got fish as well, dropping the jig. And you get a lot of, grouper might become aggressive too. And then, like you can see here, he's got a nice gag that came off of this ledge and, hit one of the jigs on the way up. Jigging up groupers, that's a lot of fun on light tackle. And so here's a mango that I did get. This is about a 4 or 5 pound mango in 50 feet of water, which is, good fish. So right in the corner, they hit on the drop, and they tend to, hook themselves. Some of the jigs I make, I put circle hooks on as well, which will do that for you. And so you can see me here. I've got my fingers feeding the line out and just slowly letting that line go. And then when the fish hits, if you got a light jig head on, you'll that line will start peeling, and then it's just a matter of flipping your bail over, and then it's fish on. I use about 4,000 size spinning reels, 20 to 30 pound braid, 20 to 30 pound leader, depending on how the water, how clean the water is, and how aggressive the fish are. So you can see that fish barely took any time to get up, but it's a nice mango because it hit 30 feet below the boat, and if you can turn them real quick, you can get them coming to the surface. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Use a lot of shrimp, cut bait, dead bait, whatever you got them feeding on at the moment. And this is what the bottom looks like on that spot. So just a real little ledge. You can see the mangoes are being pretty active, swimming around, looking, for food or whatever they may be doing. Mangoes can be one of the trickier fish to get to eat. When they don't want to eat, it's difficult. You got to scale down real light on your leader, real light on your tackle if you want to get them. This spot had a lot of bait on it that day, a lot of Spanish sardines, cigar minnows, and so I think that kind of helped the fish be a little more active. But you can see the mangroves, they're out here looking for food, kind of looking down in the sand at times, looking up, swimming throughout the water column, and I think that's when they are the most aggressive. And that's when I tend to drop the light jigs.